This is one story too many. But if we must make progress as a society, then we must continue to tell as many as necessary until justice and change is attained.
I no longer move freely on the street. My life is being threatened by the family, the corporate. You can see when you came, I hurried to go and pick my daughter in the church. She can't walk freely. I used to take her to school. I'm supposed to go out and look for what they will eat. I'm afraid. My son, he doesn't go out anywhere. Anyhow.
He is talking about the threats and the gossips about his 16-year-old daughter who was gang raped. Their lives have changed for the worse, actually. And because he is poor, he is being forced into silence. But pain and anger and a strong desire for justice motivates him to tell his story in spite of his fears for his family. He allows his daughter to speak to me.
On that fateful day, I was sent on an errand by my daddy, and before I left the house, I received a call. Then when I picked the call, it was like asking me where I was. I said I'm at home. He said I should meet him at a particular place. Then I told him that I'm not allowed to leave the house without permission. Then I left the house, going on the errand, not knowing that he was chasing me. Then he called from behind and I turned and saw him. Then he told me that I was the one that told him I was at home. Then I told him I was sent on an errand. Then as we were talking, two of his friends came from behind and it was like I should follow them, that it's better I cooperate with them. And I told them I'm not going anywhere. That was how I wanted to free myself from them. Then he slapped me, threatening that if I did not go with him, he's going to beat me, kill me. Then I had no other option. He pulled me to an uncompleted building opposite the street. Then the two friends left. Then in the process of struggling to free myself from his hand, he tore my pants and he raped me.
When you got home, what did you do?
And the first thing I did was to go to the bedroom. After I cleaned me, when I got home, I also cleaned myself properly again, and I was scared. I don't know who to tell. I don't know what to say to anybody. Each time I tried disclosing it to either my brother or anyone, I can't say anything.
Was that your first sexual experience?
Yes.
So you were a virgin before this happened?
Yes.
When you think about losing it, what comes to your mind?
I think about losing it, I have no other option than to cry, but after all the tears, I know it can never come back. Sometimes blame myself for what happened to me, because if I had raised an alarm, if I had told someone at that very moment, I won't be going through some of the pains I'm going through now.
I was taken to the scene of the crime.
They dragged her all the way here. They dragged her this way. And as they have described, they described that she was pushed on the floor here. And this is where the horrible crime occurred. Innocent 16-year-old girl who was on her way on an errand for her father.
After the rape, which she used a pocket knife to threaten her before she was down there, then the guy cleaned her up with a handkerchief, and they now threatened her that, did she know that she's being videoed? She said no. He said that her friend had been videoing when all those things was happening. They now threatened that anytime they called her to come to this place for this particular thing to repeat itself, that she must come. Failing to do so, that she will be killed.
I understand that this is also the spot where these young men come to smoke and drink. So it's sort of, people are afraid to come here because of that.
And the victim's brother speaks.
How did it make you feel when you found out your sister has been raped?
Well, I was very sober. Even at my place of work, I cried all through the night, and they were like, "What happened? You're not like this. Why are you crying?" I could not talk. I was angry. I felt like leaving that company that night, and only God understands. Assuming my mom was alive, I would have done something nasty. Because anything I do now will affect my dad as the first son. Any step I make will affect him seriously. So that was why I've been holding myself for months now.
Not surprising, the father was the last to know about the crime.
On that fateful day I was here, because I'm on alone. I'm left with 5 children anyway. I don't have a wife now. My wife is dead. So it was my junior brother and a very good friend of this family. When I saw them with my daughter, and I saw how she was sweating, my mind cut off. They were now looking at themselves. I told them, what happened? Where is my last born? They said, he's here. I said, okay. Then my junior brother now broke the news. So I feel like taking my own life.
This is one of the many stories that emerge almost daily in Nigeria. Findings from a national survey carried out in 2014 on violence against children in Nigeria confirmed 1 in 4 females reported experiencing sexual violence in childhood, with approximately 70% reporting more than 1 incident of sexual violence. In the same study, it was found that 24.8% of females aged 18 to 24 years experienced sexual abuse prior to the age of 18, of which 5.0% sought help, with only 3.5% receiving any service. What really is going on?
10,000 rapes happen every day in Nigeria. If you ask the average Nigerian, I think there's a poll where it says 67 or is it 62% of Nigerian adults are aware of a child that has been raped or that's been harassed. It's not a seeming problem. The problem is actually there.
Now that we have a highly over-sexualized world, where even teenagers have access, younger children are having access to things that in my days would have been an abomination. You know, you say, where did you get that? Where did you see that? And access is easy. Nigeria has one of the highest in the world search for pornography and access to pornography. Data. Researched. And we have gang rape porn. It's one of the highest being watched. They can't do all of that and not come back to find how to do it and think it's fun. And so we're having that kind of access. Nearly, you find that teenagers have porn on their phones.
We've had the case of a 6-month-old baby that was raped by a 41-year-old man who was HIV positive. And the herbalist said, if you have carnal knowledge of someone who has known no man, he'll be cured of his HIV. And he just thought about it that even a year-old baby will have known a man. So he just went for the 6-month-old baby that was draped, that was in diapers, that was well draped. So the victim is not to be blamed.
We have a rape culture in Nigeria, and part of it is a reflection of our society as a whole. We have a culture of impunity in Nigeria. You do something, you get away with it. Rape is no different. How many people have been convicted? How many victims have come forward to speak, knowing that their stories will be heard and something will be done about it? The perpetrators will be caught and punished. It doesn't happen often.
Are we unwittingly growing a culture of rape in Nigeria? I asked some Nigerians who is to blame when a woman is raped.
It depends. For instance, sometimes the woman, most times it's the women. Because sometimes we dress, the way we dress, sometimes attract men to you. And it can make them to do and undo.
Both parties can be at fault. Even the woman who is raped can be at fault. It depends on the way she's dressed. Because they say you are dressed the way you are dressed.
Both sexes.
The rapist. Simple. There is no, even if she's drunk, even if she was wearing whatever you call improper dressing. Now, who determines what is improper? We had Africans who were walking bare naked at a particular time in our history. There was no rape.
What about people that defile young children? 5, 6, 10? Did they dress indecently? What excuse are we going to give for those sort of? I think it's completely unacceptable.
How many of those men are ashamed of what they've done? How many of the people in their communities who know they've done these things actually shun them or give them any reason to feel that what they've done is wrong and not just be macho?
Victims of sexual abuse are not to blame. Well, those who are of the opinion that is the way they dressed have the right to hold their opinion. But let me take them back history. Our parents, in the communities we come from, we have seen over time that they move a distance to the stream to fetch water almost naked. They just have a wrapper they tie on the waist. She moves out there, fetch her water, and you hardly hear people raping her on the street, despite the fact she's looking half naked. Look, some of the cases we have handled in the past has nothing to do with rest. Down north, in the state where I work in the past, you will see a girl with a full hijab still raped. So it's not in the way she dressed, it is in the mind of the offender.
A lot of African families don't want issues of rape to be publicized because they think that it will affect the girl in terms of marriage, how society views her, and so they seem to want to keep it down. They don't want it to go public.
I'm trying to protect the image of my family. I'm trying to protect my children. If any organization maybe that will come out and they hid my identity, pursue it on their own, that is why I say if you want to catch monkey, follow and crawl like that monkey. Do it in such a way that 100 years coming, nobody will know that the act was performed by me.
Is it possible for rape victims to get justice, considering the nature of the crime? Some say the crime itself leaves little evidence that is often transient, compounded with the victims hesitating to talk.
If you look at proving a case of rape, it's not just in looking for torn clothes and other things. Yes, there are factors. But because the matter was not reported initially, does not mean that you can still not arrive at something. Okay, look at it in this instance. She is already pregnant. By who? How old is she? 14. Has she attained the age of consent? No. She has not reached the age she can give consent. So whoever sleeps with a girl that is a minor has already committed an offense of rape. Because even if she agrees to sleep with me, it is not consent under the law. Because she has not reached the age to agree. So that alone is a factor to establish rape. Now, if there is argument as to who is involved, we have the normal DNA after delivering. You'll be able to ascertain whether it fits in with the person that you are investigating. That may also help in corroborating evidence. So we cannot just give up and say because the matter was not reported initially when it happened, so we cannot prove it in court, no.
So why then do so many cases remain unsolved?
If police want to get that boy, they will get him. We have given them all the necessary information. His friends, where they normally stay. But the last word from the police was, if we see him, we should alert them.
If you go and report to the police, to go and pick up a suspect or invite a suspect, the IPO does not have a vehicle assigned for that. The vehicles that you've been seeing that are in the meeting are just patrol vehicles. There's no vehicle to say, okay, this vehicle is, or in this station, there is one vehicle that's dedicated to going to pick up for investigation. No. It is patrol. So now you're telling that same person to make calls with his own money. There are no lines that are dedicated to them for them to make to receive calls and make calls on behalf of cases. So he's using his money. He's going to ask you for it. You have to pay for it. Now you want to go and pick somebody, you will have to bring the money to go and pick up the person. Now who do we want to blame? So if I don't have the resources, there's no point.
The police don't seem to demonstrate sufficient diligence or commitment to investigating these cases with a view to identifying, or rather, apprehending the culprits. In many of such cases, what we find is that police are always not ever able to arrest the culprit. So the victims end up without justice.
I think that the problem really is in the enforcement of the laws we have. Nigeria has absolutely no need for more laws. We have sufficient laws, but are they enforced? That is the problem.
What becomes of the victims of rape when justice is denied?
Post-traumatic stress disorder, and that could demoralize and destabilize a person totally, that it may actually end up even in psychiatric ward. You have reproductive and other health challenges. It's more prominent in a person who has gone through, violation. You just keep having, because all your systems are not in sync. Your mind is not in sync with your body and all of that. So your immunity levels really go down. You have extremes too. They can become molesters themselves. Yeah, not everybody. You can become a molester. And also, you can have a very high-risk life. High risk. They take risk. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? And some of them, not all of them, these are different, like I said, different things happen to different people, but I'm just trying to put it all together. You have multiple sexual partners. You have, I have seen females who became lesbian because of this, who says, I don't want a man near me ever.
There are many women who suffer for life after the event. The very obvious things are things like sexually transmitted diseases that may occur, pregnancy that may occur. As a woman, I can only imagine the horror of having to carry a baby for somebody who raped me. It would be a very, very traumatic thing. There are those kinds of things that come up. There are also the psychological effects. So a lot of women find it difficult to have intimate relationships. After that, a lot of people's personalities change because of the trauma they've suffered. They don't trust people anymore. There are even people who go through eating disorders and either become too skinny or too fat in a bid to be unattractive, thinking maybe if I hadn't looked so attractive, it wouldn't have happened.
In Nigeria, rape has become endemic and is underreported. The shocking dimension that rape has taken is becoming worrisome. The act is done, condemnable for that matter, recorded, and it is used to keep victim under siege, like being under oath. And those who perpetrate the heinous acts act as if they are demented. I think this is shockingly on the increase, or the fact that perpetrators have not really been brought to book. The rate of conviction is abysmally low.
How can the family help these victims? What should they do when they become aware?
Love and compassion can actually help the victim heal faster. And support, which is what they get from their family. So the family should not be part of what will create the ripples of negative effects, consequences of abuse of the child. And some of them, that is what happens. And so anybody that a child approaches, and any young adult or teenager or adult that walks up to say, something happened to me, we need to believe them. We don't need to come from the point of blame.
The family's most important role is providing support for the victim, not blaming the victim, not shunning them, because we unfortunately are also in a society where it is believed that such things are a shame to the family, and in some cases the girl or woman has been kicked out, especially if pregnancy results, or is hidden away from sight, and everybody acts as though she no longer exists. It's considered that such a person is no longer marriageable, or if she's in a marriage already, that marriage may end. So the most important thing is actually the support from parents, from siblings, from husbands, from extended family, helping the person to overcome that initial trauma, and most importantly, letting her know that regardless of the circumstances, it was not her fault that she got raped.
Society is evolving, it's changing. This whole notion that a victim should be allowed to suffer victimization because of what society will think, it does not do any good to the victim. People should speak out. Perpetrators should be exposed, so that others will learn a lesson.
Which one is better? Protecting the girl child, protecting our women, our wives, our sisters, or covering the evil? So we must find a way to deal with those perpetrators and save the female child.
This friend turned family to the victim and her family tells us why he chose to get involved.
I'm a father, and I have daughters too. And I wouldn't take the issue, the way it happened. If the girl happened to be my own daughter, I think I would fight with my life, the last pint of my blood, to make sure I get justice for her. Then I see her as also my own daughter too. And that was why I got involved, and I'm also putting every effort towards making sure that justice prevails. For somebody to just wake up and be gang rape a minor, I think it should be a cause of worry to every other Nigerian, because I don't know if it is this girl today, nobody knows who it will become, maybe his or her own son tomorrow.
What role is there for the government in addressing this?
When there's little or no conviction, when people are not brought to book, there will be no deterrent. So it's going to embolden the perpetrators of the heinous acts. And I think that what needs to be done is for the judiciary to please speed up that rate of trial, so that anyone who is innocent will go scot-free. anyone that is found culpable will be sentenced so as to serve as a deterrent.
Anybody, which is rare, who has been found guilty, in Nigeria we still call it child defilement. It's pedophilia. All these sense and sensibilities and shifting in the chin on inability to face up and call things what they are is part of our denial culture. If government truly cares about the people, then government needs to wake up and learn that the first priority is to protect the people. And how do you protect me if you keep critical information away from me? Information that could affect me, my child, my immediacy, all of those things. So there's a lot government can do, a heck of a lot. Judges, most judges don't know what to do with rape cases. They don't. They actually don't in Nigeria.
We need to make it a national issue. We need to bring it on board that everywhere we're talking about it. We're talking about it in the Senate, we're talking about it in the House of Reps, we're talking about it in the presidency. People are stepping out to say, okay, fine, we have a problem. When MediaCon started in 2003, we discovered that in 2000, yes, WHO had held in 1999, there had been a meeting and which sexual abuse of children was declared a public health epidemic. There was nothing in this country to show that we had a public health epidemic. Children were being molested. There were no interventions. There were nothing structured to say, okay, if it happened to my child. And so nobody was even coming out to say it happened to me. And so then you have it. And then in 2004, it was declared a silent epidemic in Africa based on they were having HIV. Children were having HIV not because they were mother-to-child transmission in the womb. It was more of sexual abuse of children in Africa. And ministers of health attend that. And we don't have anybody come and say there's a problem.
Conversations about sexual violence should not come and go with every crime. Sustained efforts is necessary by all of society if this issue is to be addressed once and for all.